Hi everyone, hope you're staying healthy and safe during this crazy time that we're in at the moment, and also hope that you're having a nice Easter long weekend in spite of the restrictions that we have on us. But one restriction we don't have is playing guitar. So for today's lesson, I just wanted to keep it really short and simple. We're going to look at a very simple way for guitar players to apply the Dorian mode to their playing. So modes are kind of a scary topic at first. Once you start hearing about all these Lydians and Superlocrians and all that sort of thing, it can be a little bit daunting, and particularly the way it's presented a lot of times in instructional DVDs and in magazines and stuff. Certainly when I was learning, was that it's this whole expanse of new scales that you have to learn. And while it can be viewed that way, I prefer to view it as very simply a major or a minor scale with a little twist. So generally just one note in the scale has been slightly altered to give this sound a bit of a different flavor. And as you learn your different modes and you get those sounds in your ear, you'll start to understand what those flavors are and how you might want to use them. And in many cases, it's a taste thing too. It's not always a functional thing. In fact, quite often in modal music, you're playing over a fairly static, almost sometimes a drone, as in Indian ragas and things, but also in the example we're going to look at today, in modal music, we tend to be playing over a static chord for an extended period of time, over which we can imply these flavors that we learn. Anyway, enough waffling. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the standard minor pentatonic scale, we're going to change just one note, and it's going to transform it into this Dorian modal sound. Okay. So very quickly, in the key of, we're actually going to do it in the key of D. We're going to just go through our pentatonic scale, just in case you don't already know it. So we've got 10th fret on the E string to 13th, 10 to 12 on the A string, same on the D string, and the G. B string, we return to the 10th and 13th, and E string, 10th and 13th. Okay, so probably 90% of you have probably done that before. If not, that's a really, really useful shape. It's sort of home base for a lot of guitar players, this sort of pentatonic box shape. So what better way to introduce this modal concept, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that sort of sound, which is fairly common, okay, fairly safe, and we're going to change one note to make it sound a little bit more spicy. And that note is going to be, when we get to what would be the 5th note of the scale, we're going to, instead of playing the 10th fret on the D string, we're going to play the 9th fret on the D string. Okay, so straight away you can hear that that's got a different sort of tone. And then we reach up as normal to the 12th fret. Again, originally, that's your regular pentatonic. And there's your Dorian sound. So really the Dorian sound is encapsulated in this note here. So it doesn't matter if you were playing a normal pentatonic line, as soon as you draw attention to this note, this is what I've heard referred to as the money note or the character note, or for me it's the secret spice. It's going to bring out that Dorian personality, which is a little bit brighter than a minor scale, because it's actually borrowing a note from the major scale, but that's for a different video, okay? If we continue through the scale, the next time we see that B note is here. So instead of playing the 13th fret on the B string, we play the 12th fret. Okay. And then we finish off the scale as normal, up to that high F. Okay, so there you have a pentatonic scale with a twist. So you could call this like a Dorian mode, I've also heard it referred to as a pentatonic 6 because you're taking away the 7th interval from the scale and replacing it with the 6th. But again, if I've lost you there, that's a topic for another video. Okay, so as far as applying this is what I would suggest. So I mentioned Indian raga music tends to be over a drone, but a Western type of music which does a similar thing is modal jazz. And the most famous jazz tune of all time is So What by Miles Davis. Now, what's so interesting about this tune and this whole movement of jazz was that it was coming from the bebop school of fast changes and then taking all of that away and focusing on color over maybe a static chord or a very small amount of chords. So in the case of So What, it's predominantly in D. It shifts up a semitone to E flat and then back down to D, but we're just going to play it in D for today. So here's a loop of the riff. Bit messy, but you've undoubtedly heard that before, yeah? Now here's the thing. If you're going to play that song, improvise with the pentatonic scale, sounds okay, but it's not very jazzy. It's almost more bluesy. If we want to jazz it up a little bit, we can throw in that Dorian note, that spicy note. Still sounds a bit bluesy, doesn't it? Because, again, this is not exclusive to the jazz style. But you can hear that it just gives it a little bit of a different twist than you might otherwise have. Now, the interesting thing as well is that Dorian note happens to be in the riff of the song as well. That B note there. So you could use that as a starting point as well. Use that passing tone, make it sound a bit more jazzy. You get the idea. Anyway, hope that gives you something fun to mess around with. You can look up that song online on YouTube, just chuck it on in the background and jam along and see what you come up with. Hopefully something really cool and interesting to your ears. And as I say, once you've got the hang of that, there's many other flavors that we could add in there as well, in similarly simple applications. All right, take care. See you next time.